Hello everybody, this is the Wikstrand and today we're celebrating 200 episodes of my silly little show. And why don't we kick it off by beheading stuff? Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Isn't he supposed to be in Italy? The answer to that question is yes. And where the hell did his hair go? That's another good question. I will try to answer both of them. The first answer is very simple. Yeah, I am actually in Italy. Chronologically, this is shot in September, about over a month after I came home, because I discovered that episode number 200 would end up here. That's the first thing. And what about my hair? Well, the thing is pretty simple. After about 2 days in Italy, I discovered that the very moist and very warm weather that we were going to have in Italy was simply going to make the grooming of my hair too damn difficult. It became frizzy almost immediately and I had to comb my hair hours upon hours just to maintain it. So I made the very, very difficult but necessary decision to ditch my 1997 Chris Jericho hair for a bit shorter hair, and that is the length of hair I am unfortunately going to continue with. It took so long to grow it out, and well, I'm simply not going to have the patience of doing it again. So with that said, enjoy my 200th episode of my silly little show and take it away, me from 2 months ago. Jesus Christ, this is a jumbled shot episode. Hello everybody, this is the Wikstrand and this is the 200th episode I have the privilege to do. Today things are gonna be a little bit different than what they normally are. You see, there's one thing I love almost as much as I do love movies. Music. It's not a big secret that I am a huge fan of music, especially metal, hard rock and progressive music. So I thought that for this, my 200th episode, I was going to do a video in which I take movie pitches basically for, you know, albums and entire group catalogs and series of albums that could be turned into movies basically. Sometimes when I listen to this thing, I can see in front of me how awesome these movies would be. Not only because of the music that, you know, would be in the movies, but also because of the story itself. They are so great. And most of these things you probably have never heard of. So maybe this will be a great opportunity for you to expand your music library a little bit. So here we go. But first, the rules. We're not gonna have any fucking rules. This is my show. So without any further ado, here are 17 movies that should be made based on music albums. Number 17, Siltoid, The Omniscient. Oh, Devin Townsend, you silly Billy. For those who do not know it, this is a Canadian musician who really tries to, you know, experiment with certain things, and here he has definitely outdone himself. So this is a concept album in the weirdest way possible. So Earth has an unwelcome visitor from beyond the multiverse or something like that, comes Siltoid, the Omniscient, a alien with an obsession for coffee. And he demands that if humanity can't give him the universe's best coffee within 15 Earth minutes, or was it 5 Earth minutes, I can't quite remember, he will destroy the Earth. Mwaha! So, and that's basically it. Is humanity doomed? Because if we can't produce the best cup of Java ever, then we're doomed? Or can we, you know, escape to somewhere? Or is Siltoid going to just mow down us? Or will we be exposed for being a nerd by Captain Spectacular? Wait, what? Anyway, I imagine that this would be a Mars Attacks style movie basically, with, you know, slightly hokey effects and violence and silly nonsense. And they have to keep the ending to the record, which I won't spoil here, but gives you a little heads up. It will not end the way you think it's going to end. It is absolutely spectacular. It is probably one of the weaker albums in, you know, when it comes to the quality of the songs, because he has his own style, but the story itself is pretty funny. Number 16, Balsagot. Apparently it's supposed to be pronounced Balsagoth, I understand, but it sounds a little bit too close to ballsack, I think, so we're not gonna do that. There are different ways to approach the audience that you're, you know, leaning towards. For instance, it could be a thing where you would say like, I'm very happy that you bought this album, and I'm just a guy with a guitar and you're making me living my dream, or something like that. Hold my titanium chalice filled with the blood of my enemies, says Balsagot, and decided to, you know, include some more potent words for the audience in their fantastic album Battle Magic. I shall now read it. Thrice hail, and lo, the first trilogy of Balsagot stands complete, eternal glory unto the multitudes of steadfast and fearless warriors who have petted the hooted edge of their steel, and passionate fire in the hearts of the immortal crusade of Balsagoth. With the power of our countless allies across the globe, we shall forge a new glorious imperium, sweeping away with dreadful ire on our sworn foes, unleashing a foreign wrath of red slaughter upon them, and in truly unparalleled shall be the carnage. Hearken, legions of the Black Moon, clarion call of the battle is nigh, and havoc of the fray beckons. Sexecraft, Bloodunjarna, Balsagot exists as an eternity unto ourself. We transcend the understanding and perception of the unenlightened man, reigning immortal and crafting our dark art from a level of consciousness unknown and unknowable to the flaccid, mindless thralls who embrace the fetters of their own servitude. We are eternal, and our legends shall live on long after the inconsequential lives of the deluded have expired, and being forgotten, their bones picked clean and turned to dust. Byron, winter 1997. This should give you an idea of what this band stands for. Balsagot's music is basically some kind of avant-gardistic black metal or something like that, which basically sounds like Cradle of Filth, but with a, you know, trailer voiceover on top of all things. It's really, really strange, and it's really, really awesome. Their music is basically about, you know, intergalactic wars and Lovecraftian stories and visions of Atlantis and horror stories and, you know, legends and fantasy tales and stuff like that. It's not so much as a one coherent story, but you could take several of their stuff like the Hyperborean Empire trilogy and make something out of that one, and you could, you know, build on top of things. It would be a little bit sketchy to get one clear story out of it, but it has the potential to be one of the most epic things you could ever, you know, describe. The thing is that Balsagot's style is epic, but their budgets are a little bit ramshackle, to say the least. So imagine to hearing their songs played within full orchestra. It would be freaking amazing. Now, I should also take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about how they present themselves when it comes to titles for different songs. Taking, for instance, Black Mountain Sour Above the Mountain of Shadows. That's a short one. A better one is To Dethrone the Witch Queen of Mythos Kun, the legend of the Battle of Blackhelm Vale. Or why not, and lo, when the Imperium marches against Kol Kuduth, then dark sorceries shall ensnare the citadel of the Obsidian Crown. Or my personal favorite, the Dark League of Chaos is unleashed on the Enshrolled Shrine of Arasukai, the splendor of a thousand swords being Gleaming Bleak, the Blazing of the Hyperborean Empire, Part 2. So it is not so much one clear story. It would just be, the most over-the-top sci-fi, fantasy, horror extravagance you could ever hope for. But there is one group that will come in a little bit later that look at that and said, we can do it even more epic and even more silly. So if you've never heard of Balsagot, I would definitely recommend it to check out either, Battle Magic or Starfire Burning Upon the Icefield Throne of Ultima Thule, or the slightly more accessible The Power Cosmic. They're great, they're fantastic, and they are a little bit odd. Number 15, Cage, Hell Destroyer. In the name of the Hell Destroyer! I'm not going to try to sing like Sean Peck does, who is the lead singer of Cage, because it would only sound silly and it would be a cruelty towards ears. But this is basically late 80s, early 90s Judas Priest on freaking steroids. Add that a super epic story about, monsters coming from hell and, false prophets. And how do you combat the devil? Do you pray? No. Do you ask for redemption? No. You take gigantic guns and you blast those demons to hell. And it's a very, very, they have made better albums. Science of Annihilation is probably better, and Ancient Evil is probably a better overall story. But just the sheer scope and the sheer insanity, how big the Hell Destroyer album is, I think this could be a fantastic, super epic, almost like a Pacific Rim type of things, but you exchange, demons from, beneath the surface to, devil and his favorite demons and, stuff like that. And the story itself has a lot of nice things with, false prophets, as I said, and of course, the Christ Hammer. Number 14, Arion 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. If you've never heard about Arion before, you will know before this little silly episode is over, you will know a lot more about him. In short, he's a multi-instrumentalist from Holland who makes these very complex and very, very fascinating stories with multiple singers and guest artists and stuff like that. And one album he did 2008 is kind of fascinating. It's just so great when it comes to the songs. It is not his strongest album when it comes to the story, because the story is a little, well, how do you make it into a real movie? Because on Planet Y we have these race that just depends on machines and they have lost their emotions, stuff like that, but they think that they can continue to exist if they just spread their DNA towards another planet on another place called Earth. And when they see how we evolve and stuff like that, because they had a hand in doing this, but our creators see that they might have made a mistake with us because we repeat the mistakes they make. So should they intervene or should they allow us to destroy ourselves? We will return to Planet Y later on this list, because we are not done with Arion just yet. But the songs are so amazing. Beneath the Waves, A Newborn Race, Ride the Comics, Web of Lies, but especially The Truth Is In Here. It is probably one of the best songs I've ever heard. If you've never heard about Arion before, this is a pretty good album to start if you want to explore more about him. This is absolutely great, and but we're not quite done with Arion just yet. Number 13, 10, Babylon. Question: is 10 the worst name for a band that has ever been conceived? Because face it, if your name is 10, T-E-N, how the hell do you find them if you're gonna search for them? Because you just find stuff that has to do with the number 10, but enough about that. The story for Babylon is a bit silly. It is far in the future, and we have this huge dome a la Stephen King that covering this gigantic city called Babylon. We're getting updates throughout from some kind of a DJ or something like that, and we see this guy that falls in love with this girl, but when we have these rich assholes that he work for that thinks that she's beneath him, so they kill her, and he'll mope a little bit about in the super sad and super great song Silent Rain, and then construct these cybernetic hit man, in this case, but hit woman, who he goes after, and he reunites with her in some kind of simulation or something like that. Spoilers, by the way. So this would be a kind of revenge tale in a sort of Blade Runner-esque setting, with lots of with the romance being a heavy part of it. If that works or not, I don't know, but I would just like to hear songs like The Stranger or Barricade or Thunder in Heaven or Valentine, just being in this big scope. It's kind of cliched, and if you are in any way kind of want to laugh at this nonsense, then it isn't too difficult to do it. But I kind of find this the sappy love story and the all this sci-fi nonsense, that's kind of endearing. Number 12, King Diamond, the Puppet Master. Since 1987, King Diamond has trotted out a long string of great concept albums in the horror genre. And in my opinion, his best story and his best album he made in 2003, and it was called The Puppet Master. Puppet Master takes place in Budapest around the end of the 19th century, and it follows a guy who goes to this puppet show where they have these life-size puppets that can do all these incredible things. He believes that it's kind of magic, and our protagonist falls in love with this woman. I think she's actually on the album. She's sung by the wife of King Diamond, but I'm not entirely sure, but she's really good. But he discovers that these life-size puppets are in fact real people that has been made from murder victims, because the puppet master's wife is walking around killing people. Where are you going with that knife, as the song goes. And our protagonist, he basically gets killed, but his eyes still lives on, so he can forever see. The other puppets can't, and they are jump started with their own blood. As long as there is their own blood, they can still do all these crazy things that they can do. So he's basically forced into being this kind of a puppet here, and it would be a very violent movie, very graphical stuff, especially the cutting out eyes and decapitating him and slicing and dicing, and but it's also a great tragedy. And when he and the girl he loves talk to each other and trying to remember, and it is just a very sad story, and it also has one of the bleakest and most depressing endings of all time when it comes to this is basically The Thing from 1982 bleak endings, but even worse in fact. And I could see Eli Roth doing this into a pretty stellar movie. By the way, there is the DVD that is included in this little album. King Diamond in full makeup is telling us the story, and sometimes he made me generally scared, and sometimes he went a little too far over the top, and then it just became a little silly. But I think that the Puppet Master could easily be one of these fantastic horror musicals. Because, let's face it, King Diamond's music isn't exactly your typical headbanging, super shredding music, because he doesn't really work in the traditional verse chorus thing. He's just doing whatever. It almost is like he was taking stuff from Jess or King Crimson or something like that. I don't know if this is a good album to start with if you're kind of curious about King Diamond albums. Abigail is probably the best to start with, or Conspiracy, but this is the best he has done by a long shot in my opinion. Number 11, Virgin Steel, The House of Atreus, Act 1 and Act 2. God, I love Virgin Steel so much. Virgin Steel began in the early 80s and they have been producing great album after great album after great album. Sure, they have had a couple of nose dives here and there, but one of their crowning achievements was making this. It's basically a metal opera inspired by the Oricita, a trilogy of Greek tragedies written by Achilles. Is that how it's pronounced? Which basically tells the story of House Atreus, the curse of them and the end of them. And by the way, this is the only thing I'm presenting today that actually has gone into being something else than just an album, because this metal opera was actually performed on stage under the name Clytasmensiarata, the House of Atreus, in 1999 to 2001. It was production of Memming Opera House Company. And basically, Virgin Steel has always been this very bombastic, very, big, and they call themselves barbaric romantic metal, and that's a fairly good representation. It has this Romanesque Greek tragedy over this, and even though all the characters are sung by the same guy, David the Face, the man with the super voice, the lion's roar, it could work as this Greek tragedy. It could be almost like a Titus movie, if you've seen that one with Anthony Hopkins, but without motorcycles, but the same kind of barbaric thing. It would be this big Greek tragedy, and you would have these songs like Through the Ring of Fire, or Great Sword of Flame, and The Gate of Kings, or The Vine of Violence, or stuff like that. The songs, they have made better albums, like The Marriage of Heaven and Hell Part 2, or Invictus, or something like that. But this is but story-wise, this is the best they've ever done. And this is basically like a thinking man's Manowar. And if you think that Manowar might show up on this list, they might, or they might not. But The House of Atreus could be this bloody, tragic, barbaric, and sad family drama / sword and sandal epic, and I would be first in line for it. Arion, The Human Equation. Oh, hello Arion, so you're back again. Yeah, this is his most un-sci-fi project he has ever done. This would make for a very, very interesting movie. So this double CD is 20 songs. Each song represents one day, because there's a guy who is in coma after a traffic accident, and we get to see his head, the inside of his head, and like the movie Inside Out, his emotions are being presented by different people. So we get to see flashbacks to his earlier life and how his emotions react to him. And unlike Inside Out, where there is only a couple of emotions, we have a bigger, much wider gallery here. I mean, we have reason, love, fear, pride, passion, agony, and rage. James LeBrie plays the titular character, and Arian Anthony Lucasen, aka Arian himself, is the best friend. And we get to see how he became who he became, and it becomes a character arc within his head. So it would be these dreamlike Terrence Malick sequences, and you would have, you know, the emotions coming in like basically like sirens in a Greek play or something like that. It would be really trippy, but it would actually work. And there are songs here that would definitely function very good, like Day 11 Love, or for instance Loser, which is number 16, where Ted Devin Townsend, who is 3 years away from making his Siltoid album, is Rage. And this is not the best album that Ayreon has done, but it has many strong and very emotional tracks to it that makes it worthwhile. And it is also such a unique thing, because you feel at the end of this that you know this guy. You feel that you've seen, you know, his struggle and small little tales of how he met his wife, stuff like that. It's kind of touching. And but the story wraps up fantastically, and finally no more nights or no more time travels or stuff like that for Ayreon, except of course that there is a hint that maybe this is all part of some kind of big sci-fi scheme. Of course, he couldn't resist, could he? Number 9, the Lord Weird Slowfeg, Traveler. Based on the role-playing game Traveler from the 1970s. Now, if you've never heard about the Lord Weird Slowfeg, I feel sorry for you. I feel generally sorry for you. Imagine you would take early Maiden and you would add a kind of Thin Lizzy-esque Celtic feel to it, and then add on top of that a lot of lunacy. Then you would get the Lord Weird Slowfeg. I love them. This isn't the best album they have done. That is Down Among the Dead Men, which you definitely should check out. But their unique style aside, I really love this album, mostly because of the fact that it is a concept album, and we have this, you know, not so complicated thing about, you know, mad scientists and space wolf warrior thingies, and you know, the space parachute and all that stuff. And the songs are so strong. Release the spores and all that stuff. Imperial troops are coming. This may be our last chance. The Vaga moon is pressing. The future's not at hand. It's such a good freaking album, and it may not have the fantastic story that is so easy to follow as a Ayreon album, for instance, but the music is so powerful and so unique, and it would be this kind of wacky Guardians of the Galaxy-ish space adventure, but R-rated, of course, and with lots of wacky weird stuff, and on top of everything, the Lord Weird Slowfeg's amazing down, da, 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 down, da, 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 down, sound pumping out throughout the whole thing. I would have liked to play, you know, a lot of these stuff that I'm doing right now, but I don't know how to get around potentially, you know, YouTube blocking or something like that. So I'll just say go and seek all of these things. At least try one of them and seek this one out because it's freaking awesome. Luca Turilli, Prophet of the Last Eclipse. Luca Turilli is an Italian musician who has a fondness for sci-fi, fantasy, and doing super over the top albums. In 2002 he was quite a busy boy, releasing not only the best album he has ever made, but also one of the best albums ever made in total, with Rhapsody and Oh We'll Get to Them also. This is his second solo album. It is basically a sort of Event Horizon-esque story set on Sapphire or something like that it's called, and we have aliens and we have all of those religious fools, and we have princesses and, you know, tragedies and stuff like that. The story isn't as important as the amazing, freaking super amazing soundtrack we will have for it. War of the Universe and the Sapphire Sky theme, the Age of Mystic Eyes, Prince of the Starlight, and of course the super ballad Timeless Oceans, and of course the 11-minute monster and title track Prophet of the Last Eclipse. But the standout song is of course New Century Tarantula, which mixes about 5 different music styles, and every one of them is crazy as fuck. This would of course be a sort of more of a horror sci-fi movie rather than the Traveler's more wacky adventure style, but it would also be, you know, a lot of action and stuff like that. So it would be like Pitch Black, Event Horizon sliced together to create some kind of absolute lunacy, topped of course with one of the greatest albums of the early 2000s. Fucking hell, it is great. Avantasia, the metal opera, part 1 and part 2. So Tobias Sammet was, what, 25 years old when he decided to do a metal opera with lots and lots and lots of legendary singers from, you know, different bands and stuff like that, like Timo Tolkki and Andre Matos and David DeFay and Mikael Kitzke and stuff like that, and it was pretty awesome. It is the story is pretty okay, and you know they're searching for these seals to, you know, fix this book that can take you to parallel dimensions, and there are, you know, love stories, and there are fantasy elements, and a little bit of Inquisition critique or stuff like that, and the story itself is good. But nothing comes close to how amazing the songs are. Reach Out for the Light, Serpents in Paradise, Breaking Away, Sign of the Cross, and of course Farewell, one of the super ballads of all time. The second part isn't as great, but they have great stuff like in Quest for Into the Unknown and the Seven Angels and Chalice of Agony. And it would be a very, very fascinating little movie to make out of this one. And it works as a sort of, as almost a musical or an opera, just because that, you know, they play all of these different characters and they work off each other really well. These two albums are the crowning achievements of Avantasia. He has released multiple records after this one, but no one really comes close to them. Moonglow was very good, however. Number 6, Dream Theater, The Astonishing. The Astonishing is the best album that Dream Theater has ever made, and I will die on that hill. It is a fantastic album. It has everything. The only thing that would have made this one even greater was if he had, you know, like Arion or Avantasia, he would have had, you know, more guest artists who would have played different characters. It is basically the album 2112 by Rush that came out in 1976, but this is in expanded form. It's almost 2.5 hours of music, and it has 2 tracks. It's basically Act 1 and Act 2 are 2 or one song on each CD, and it is basically it's in the far distant future where music doesn't exist anymore, and they have this, you know, just this automatic noises that these machines make, and there is this guy who can sing, you know, in a small village, and the Emperor of America or stuff like that is, you know, threatened by this, and what happens next is a bunch of, you know, rebellions and threats and inter turmoil within family, and the story is kind of powerful, but it is the character that really comes out to life, despite being sung by the same guy, with some small exceptions. And you really get a feeling for the story, and you know, when he performs in the square and stuff like that, it is just powerful, and it's wrong thing to do, but it would be like a Hunger Games premise, but without the teen angst and more of R-rated violence and stuff like that. But in the scope and the style, it probably would resemble of that most. Now, this is the first time ever that Hunger Games have been clumped together with Dream Theater, and I'm sorry if you like Dream Theater. I like Dream Theater too, and there are probably albums that is more easily digested when it comes to Dream Theater. Images and Words, and Octavium is a very good one, for instance, but I personally hold this as my absolute favorite, and it would be a fantastic movie. Number 5, Manowar. Now we're talking the entire freaking catalog of Manowar, one of my absolute favorite bands of all time. Manowar takes themselves very seriously, or not seriously at all. I don't know which one is more disturbing than the other, but throughout their career, Manowar has made at least 19 songs about themselves and how awesome they are. I'm saying 19 because, at least because there are probably about 10, 15, even 20 more songs that are indirectly about Manowar. You probably thought I was going to pick the Gods of War album to have them as the movie that was going to be about them, but I would rather go. We could go two ways about this one. We could either go of a sort of almost a comedy where it would be like Conan the Barbarian meets Spinal Tap, basically, when you would go with their very hokey animal skin and leather thong period from early 80s, and you would have them being as awesome as themselves are, and they would go in motorbikes, and they would be so super serious and pumping iron and stuff like that, and you would make this all like a clay animation or something like that, or you would go in more of a super serious barbarian movie, basically, with their songs spliced in. It's not the most straight up coherent story that you could have made, but god damn it, it would be awesome. Just an example, if you have no idea what Manowar is about or their appearance of themselves, this is the opening statement they're making in the song Kings of Metal from the same album. Manowar, living on the road. When we're in town, speakers explode. Now we don't attract wimps, 'cause we're too loud. Just true metal people, that's Manowar's crowd. And so on and so on. Now, if you've never heard about them, I would definitely recommend an album like Kings of Metal, or, I don't know, Battle Hymns is also a very good one, or the monstrosity of Sign of the Hammer is freaking amazing, or why don't you do Hail to England? And there are too many songs to figure out, but you would make a sort of super... You would either make a sort of quasi-documentary thing that would turn into that Manowar turns into themselves in another period when they would fight each other and stuff like that. By the way, small little side note, Sweden Rock Magazine presented a little bit of a joke article about Manosmurfs, where they would, where they had these funny illustrations where Manowar were Smurfs, and they interviewed them and as if they were Smurfs, and Joey DiMaggio, who the band leader and the writing of most of their songs, he took offense to that and called them up and was very angry with them, which proves that he really cares about Manowar. And if you've ever seen him on stage, he can, cut these 20-minute promos about how awesome Manowar are and how awesome the fans of Manowar are. And I personally think that Manowar has such a cinematic touch to their bombastic metal that it really should be turned into movies somehow. If it is humoristic or super mega serious, I don't know, but you could make this Conan the Barbarian kind of scenarios where you would have these songs like March of Revenge by the Soldiers of Death, Hail and Kill, Dark Avenger, Each Dawn I Die, or Bridge of Death, and have these really dark, sinister, brooding, mega bloody songs where you would have hatred with heart-filled hatred. Black blood runs through my veins and stuff like that. It would be freaking awesome. Number 4, Glory Hammer, triple feature. In the distant future of the year 1992, war has returned to the galaxy. Now, remember what I said about intergalactic wars, and that would be super over the top from Balsagot earlier. Well, Glory Hammer took a look at that and said, we can do it even more epic and even more silly. Instead of trying to hide the fact that this is a cartoonish bullshit, they embrace it, and they have this most outlandish attire on stage. They have the most outlandish and over-the-top gimmick of all time, and they have this very, very, very big and epic trilogy about the story about the evil wizard Sargothrax and the Hootsman and all of these characters, Submariner, and it is so over the top and it is so ridiculous, and they have all of these. Everything is so epic that it goes over the top in such way that you really can't take it seriously. You're just laughing your ass off. I can listen to these albums how many times I want to. I mean, Space 1992, Rise of the Chaos Wizard is probably one of the funniest and greatest albums I've ever listened to. Goblin King of the Darkstorm Galaxy, Legend of the Astral Hammer, Rise of the Chaos Wizards, Universe on Fire, Heroes of Dundee, and of course Apocalypse 1992 is freaking amazing. But we do also have these amazing songs like Power of Laser Dragonfire, or why not Hoots Force. Hoots Force, we are the Hoots Force. Fight for the king, for the hammer and the ring. Fight for the ancient story. Fight for your light, we fight for the power and the glory. Hoots Force arise. I will not sing more. It is so epic, and it is so catchy, and it is so ridiculous. It would make a fantastic bunch of movies that takes itself seriously in no way, shape or form, by taking itself so serious that you couldn't help but laugh at stuff like the Hollywood Hootsman and all these stuff. The songs are so fantastic, the songs are so grand and so epic that you can't do anything else than just smile and just say, you guys are freaking crazy, man. How would you do it? I don't know, but I just want to hear a big choir sing The Unicorn Invasion of Dundee, Dundee, da 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 da. Damn, Glory Hammer is the freaking best. Number 3, Aerion, The Source. You remember Planet Y, the 01 album, which I had earlier? This is basically how the Forever people that were on Planet Y came there. And it was basically their own planet went to shit, basically, and it went under, and they rescued themselves onto these ships, and they flew away to this new planet. Now, I think that this is one of the greatest albums I've heard in recent years. It is one of the best damn concept albums I've ever listened to. The songs are just so strong. All That Was, Star of Syrah, Sea of Machines, The Day That the World Broke Down, Condemned to Live, Aquatic Race, Into the Ocean, Planet Y Is Alive, but mostly Run Apocalypse Run. It is such an amazing story, and I would actually, however, vote for that you would do this story taking place on Earth, and that the people would know, for a long time that the world was doomed, and they would just leave everybody and fly away and stuff like that. It would be such a powerful apocalyptic thing, and The song Everybody Dies is probably one of the greatest songs that has been written for the past 5 years. It is such an amazing song. It is... I get goosebumps when I hear it. The food supplies and everybody dies. And it will also be an interesting thing about, you know, that you could potentially make a movie about, you know, if you would alter your DNA to be able to survive in this aquatic world which they are about, you know, land on, are you still humans and how would that affect you? They could probably explore the hell out of that one in some great movie. I would have Ridley Scott directing this one and some super guy writing it, Aaron Sorkins. Has Aaron Sorkins ever written sci-fi? Get him on that job. The Source, written by Aaron Sorkins, directed by Ridley Scott. It just smells money. I can see it. I can smell it. I can smell all the money. Arion, is it their best album? We shall see. Number 2, Rhapsody, Symphony of the Enchanted Lands. Perhaps my favorite artist of all time. Rhapsody has made some of my favorite albums of all time. They have made some of my favorite songs of all time. They're just the legendary best. Few albums, if any, can top what they have made. And their super mega amazing super duper concept album is not just one album, but it is several. It basically, from 1997 to 2011, it was one continuous story. You could say it was actually two, because, you know, they in 2004 they went for a Symphony of the Enchanted Land Part 2, which introduced new characters and introduced voice actors and stuff like that, which and it just enhanced them even further. It is freaking amazing. I absolutely love them. I mean, Emerald Sword, Echoes of Tragedy, Unholy War Cry, the Sacred Power of Raging Winds, Guardians of Destiny, and countless other songs they have made. It would be like a super duper version of Lord of the Rings, but with a lot more shredding guitars and over the top pop choruses in with these super large choirs and stuff like that. It would be amazing. I just, if I ever am in a damp mode, I just think to myself, I should play just a little bit of Rhapsody right now and everything would be fine. I mean, they're just the best. And I mean, Raging Starfire, Danza di Fuego e Gaucho, or The Way to Ainur, and the best song they've ever made is probably, and also the best album, is The Cold Embrace of Fear, a 37-minute long EP with just one song continuing throughout. It is so epic, it's so over the top, it's so epic that nothing really comes close to it. This should have easily been on top of everything if it hadn't been for one little album that tops even Rhapsody, even how amazing that is, even, you know, with all the wars and stuff like that. I just wanna, by the way, before we go to number 1, I just wanna say that I would pay top dollars just to see somebody say, "Fly, fly, mighty Tharos, for your revenge and our freedom!" If you're in the least curious about Rhapsody, I would say Symphony of the Enchanted Lands Part 2, their best album they've ever made. And of course the first one, and The Cold Embrace of Fear, and I don't have Power of the Dragonflame here, and I think, but those are freaking amazing. I would definitely check those out. And number 1, Arion, Into the Electric Castle, a space opera. You have a task: to release yourself from this web of wisdom, this knotted maze of delirium. You must enter the portals of the Electric Castle. Story-wise, nothing tops this one. Interaction between character, nothing tops this one. Atmosphere, mode, nothing tops this one. There has been better songs released and there has been better albums released, but a better concept album? No sir, no sir. No album comes close to it. So we have a bunch of different characters from different periods of time. An Indian, a hippie, a future man, a knight, a Roman, a Highlander, and you know, some other people as well, who are waking up in a different dimension. And so they basically follow them on their journey as they, you know, approaches the electric castles, enter the electric castles, and in the end comes across something behind the voice, and we get to hear why they are here and all of these things. And there is nothing I love more than just to listen to this album from start to finish. It is such an amazing album. Granted, not every song is pitch perfect, but there are just too many great songs into this one. Isis and Osiris, Time Beyond Time, Amazing Flight, The Decision Tree, Tunnel of Light, The Garden of Emotions, The Castle Hall, Tower of Hope, The Two Gates, and of course Another Time, Another Space, but not to forget the greatest and saddest song I've ever heard, I think, Valley of the Queens. If you do not break down in tears after listening to this one, then you probably have some issues, man, because just thinking about it, it is just so freaking sad. And you're caring about these characters, and you're learning a lot about these characters. And when, you know, one or two actually dies, you really feel sad for them, and you legit feels frightened that, you know, they're not gonna make it out of here alive. And if this would have been turned into a movie, I would have Tim Burton as a director, and I would have like a Nightmare Before Christmas meets Sleepy Hollow or something like that. It would be so great. You could basically just have, you know, the singers of the album, you know, as you know, and just dub it in. You wouldn't have to re-record anything. It is not a pitch perfect album, but and the cast of characters are not as legendary as his later albums would be, but the sheer awesomeness of this album cannot be underestimated. It is amazing. I love this album so much, and if I could only have one movie based on any of all of these silly stuff that we have talked about today, this is the one. Into the Electric Castle, a space opera. You can't top it when it comes to concept albums. You cannot. And that was my 200th episode, and we'll see what we do for the number 300, which I hope I will do, but I'll see you next time. Well, I'll be reviewing, well, so-and-so from, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.